Morning traders. Good morning. So happy CPI day for everyone. Oh, you gotta love these numbers, right? So and they're not over. Really, the tomorrow is gonna be interesting too. We have the FOMC and PPI and but anyhow, you know, these numbers aren't worth like trying to chase and figure out. Yeah, I like to play the reaction after the reaction, right? So let's see what we have here on the market profile. Now, first, we had this big rest period, right? Huge consolidation that we watched. We couldn't close above it. This was the fake out close originally when we closed on Friday, but then Sunday night we had the news that dropped the market back down, and we couldn't close below here. And now we finally got something going, right? But in the big picture, we've been in an uptrend since October 27th. If you look at the weeklies, we've had 7 higher weeks in a row of higher highs. So, we're pretty primed for to continue this. Um, but we could have some two-way swings until tomorrow. I'm not sure that we're going to get too far too fast with the FOMC tomorrow. If you kind of look at the bonds, the bonds are now kind of back, they spiked up higher. We'll look at that, came back down. So um, this high that we went to, 97, was kind of resistance. And uh, let's see, we high on that CPI move was 46.96 and a quarter, and 97 was the level for me to watch, along with this O2. And of course, you have the big number 4,700 that everybody looks at. So we're breaking below the Asia low that I have on there. I left that on. And we're in the pre-market, we got below the pivot. Now, for me, the pivot was 78. Initially, we bounced off 78 and a little bit of a bounce, but there's a good chance we pull back down and maybe even get back down to 46, 66, 67, which would pretty much, if you look over here, kind of fill in this little cave, right? I don't see why we can't go down at that level because the CPI really was kind of pretty much expected. And anyhow, the market's going to do what it wants to do. Usually we have a spike, single prints, failed auction like we did this morning. We have an equal swing to the other side. And we have some single prints to boot from the US session from yesterday. So the top of this previous US session high comes in right around that 65, 66, which I think we can move and possibly go fill that cave down below a little bit and then trade inside the overnight sessions because it's a fairly decent size range, and the early morning ranges have been really small until we get something going towards the afternoon. So I think we could get back down, fill a little bit of this cave. Now, uh, if we don't do it, of course, the pivot right here comes in at this 78, previous high right around that 80. So let's just say they get above 80, 46.80, maybe we have a shot at moving back up towards the overnight highs. I kind of feel like we'll come back into chill a little bit. So, and filled in this little area. All right, so we'll come back to the ES, to the ES in a little bit. Okay, let's look behind the screens here, and let's look at this crude. Well, this crude was really pretty perfect because we had this push down in the crude, nice sell off, in fact, this a perfect for me kind of bear flag. Came back into the breakout zone. This was the where we fell out of this, kind of trying to come into balance, but fell out and continued this down move. And we just had this little push up. So this was for me a pretty nice, um, pretty nice bear flag. Now, there's a good chance we can get down to 68 and test that previous swing low of 68.80. I think as long as we stay below the pivot. Now the pivot is that way up here, not way up here, but 71.15 to 20. We have two previous point of controls from the US session. We traded inside the US session or the overnight session here yesterday, and we had a tiny little pop right to where we broke out from, right? So this is where we fell out of bed, and then we get this little bear flag, and now we're possibly going to come down and test it. If they test it and they hold it, they need to really build a base for me to feel like the market's going to go back up. But with that being said, if I go over here, let's just look at a bar chart for a second. And, let's see. So you could see it pretty much on this pretty clearly. Let me get my little drawing tools out. So you have this nice little push down after we had a mini bear flag here as well. And this is just another one. So it's pretty evident. You can see these are PAV reverses down. Now we're starting to push down into to test this possible swing low and maybe take it out. There's nothing for me to, for it to stop for me, other than the swing low. Okay. All right. So now let's go back to the main screen. You should be able to see my market profile screen. Now, I don't know that we're going to really take out the swing low, but I think we could get a test maybe close to it. 69.08. It's a pretty decent level. It's right around this low. It's the bottom of the value area here from this the swing low that we made. So if we get down there and hold, short term, might catch a little bit of a bounce. Let's look at this this gold. This gold had some crazy moves, right? But if when we look at this gold, all we're doing is we're measuring this swing that we had up here on that Sunday night where, we had the crazy stuff going on with the drones and all that, and it was a big squeeze play. So, a over exaggerated swing to the upside, right, causes equal swings to the downside. But we did a lot more damage than just finishing an equal swing. Now we're, this whole area is pretty big where the pivot is. It's the 200 daily SMA. It was the low of the previous swing down from Thursday, and now we put in a high right around this 10 level. We just spiked above it. So, gold could go back down and retest that swing low that it made yesterday. I know that everybody likes the gold, but I just look at it as another market. And here's the swing, right? So it's very possible that this gold can retest previous US session lows, right? That comes in at 1991. I feel like we still have a chance to get down to 1987, but the big area for me Below there would be 1973 to 78. It's kind of the inside pocket. So we get a little bit of a push down there. That might be a better, you know, area to look for a bottom, right? Because that's where we started this rally, um, right around that area on November 13th. So you have to look at how far we've traveled from November 13th, which was 1956, all the way up to this spike high, this failed auction at 2152. Quite the rally, right? It's a $200 rally. But, if we come down here, they should kind of support, and they might even try to hold a low that we had yesterday. But I think there's a chance we might get a little bit more of a push down there. Now, on the flip side, this is a big area. If they take out the early morning highs around that 2012.50, and then we can catch a little bit of a short cover and rally and a pop, and maybe get up to 2032 up in that area if they can get above that 2011, which is the pivot. And it's also the 200 daily SMA comes in right around 10. So it'll be interesting to see. So far, we came close to taking out the overnight lows, and now we're smack in the middle at the moment. So could have a little bit of a two-way traffic until we either get above the pivot again, early morning highs, or we take out the swing low. All right. All right, let's take a look at this EC, right? Now, the EC has had quite the move from the highs. In fact, on just the end of the month, we did some traveling here, right? We went from 110.25 all the way down to this 107 area, the low 107. So pretty big break. Now we're trying to find some balance here. You could see we're holding above the pivot and this inside pocket. So it's possible that, we, can have a retest of this spike high. They had quite the sell off. But again, with tomorrow's FOMC and PPI, you just might have a little resting today, a little two-way action, because the same with the bonds. They're probably not going to do anything crazy with FOMC tomorrow, and the EC and the bonds, even the gold, they've been kind of correlated through. Sometimes they're not totally correlated, but lately the EC and the bonds have been a little bit disjointed, but now they're, you might just see a little bit of a rest period like the bonds, right? So unless we get below this pivot, I would say below the overnight lows, just to just as a major level, 107.63 half, right, is the overnight lows. If they get below that, you'd be below this pivot, which is the point of control from the overnight session. It comes in a little bit higher at this 107.68. Both the point of control for the US session and the overnight session comes in here. So this is like a nice little pocket that we held this morning. So it's very possible we drift higher for the time being. I don't know how far we're going to get going into FOMC, but we might test the tail here, possibly. So, and then we have the bonds, right? Bonds did its little wiggle and jiggle on CPI. They went into this kind of this resistance above, barely stayed up here. You could see, even if you looked at this way, before we broke down, this was the value area of that second day that we failed to take out this high here. And all we did was kind of poke near in that area and then came right back down. So we're right back kind of like the EC, where in the inside pocket, in a sense that this should kind of hold for now, and that's the pivot 1905, right in that area. We have no gap from the US session. We've we poked below the previous US session highs, and now I think we might hold. This is the pivot right now where we're at. I'd watch this one 1905. I'm in the camp that we'll just kind of reset a little bit and maybe come back up. Hang on a second. Come back up and fill some of this, these single prints, at least get up to the previous overnight highs, right? Last night's overnight highs, right around that 1928, 119.28. I don't know that we'll go all the way up and fill in the single prints to the US session highs from this morning, or CPI highs. This is pretty good resistance. Like I said up here, I think that was just a poke. So a little drift back up if we respect these this pocket and hold 118, call it 30. We get back about 119.05, maybe then we go to the other side of the court. Not too much, I think, to do in the bonds, other than if they hold a pivot, maybe we drift a little higher. And if we do get up even to 119.21, somewhere around halfway back to the overnight highs, that's what I would expect, just a slight bounce. All right, let's go back to the drawing board. Back to the drawing board right now, and let's just get everything set. You can see how this crude, after breaking that bear flag, is continuing to move down, and we've got another little chance of revisiting the lows, possibly at least the swing low that we just made right around 97 in this gold. So you could see this spike, kind of a two-way traffic after CPI, but here we are, just kind of working our way back, where I think we will continue to maybe push down about that 46.66 in that area, 67. All right, so let's get ready for the opening. We got 10 minutes to the opening, and now let's rock and roll a little bit. Now today will be kind of the day where you could play both sides going into the FOMC. I don't know that we're gonna retest these highs. I think they might be in for the day. I think we can go the other way a little bit, like I said, and then once we test down, maybe, and if we hold this 46.66, ooh, I hate that number. 4666. Anyway, even if we got down a little bit lower, I think we should hold 4660 is the high volume node, as you can see right here. So we might drift down to this area here, maybe even get down to 4660. And then I think, you might see some support and maybe a little bit of a bounce off those levels. All right. I will be back in 4 minutes. I'm going to get some coffee, and let's wait for the dust to settle after the first 15 minutes. That would be more telling. Okay, I'll be right back.